Hey, Karl, specifically thinking about you this afternoon, although this video is not just for you, but there was a post that I put on Facebook the other day for the sake of you have no idea what I'm talking about. And it was from a book called The Great Emergence, written by a lady named Phyllis Tickle, who talked about the idea that about every 500 years in the history of Christianity, Christianity has a rummage sale. It clears out old things and makes room for new, and the church transitions into a new, or at least adjusted or modified shape or form. And so the most recent transition point would be the 2000s. 500 years from Martin Luther's nailing his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Chapel. And anyway, so Carlton, you had said, so what now? And that's a fair and a good question. One of the things that I believe personally, and I want to say that I'm not, whatever it requires to be an expert, I'm not an expert. I do have experience. This is about 40 years into ministry, maybe even a little bit more. I started in 1976, and I've changed in that period of time, and the church has changed too. When I started, there were no such thing really as, there certainly was no term like mega church. There were large churches, but our metrics were different, and they have been different throughout the years. Back then it was Sunday school attendance was what really counted, and to measure and recognize a church by Sunday morning attendance, back then we used to think that was something that mainline churches did, or some churches talked about membership, and it seemed back then that there were churches that had inflated membership numbers and deflated attendance numbers. So there was Sunday school back then, and I remember the days of Elmer Towns and Sunday school contests and the crazy kinds of things we used to do to get people to come out to Sunday school. And then bus ministry became a tool that we added to our quivers, our toolboxes, and we ran bus ministries, which quite honestly was exhausting, and they burned people out. They did get kids into church, no question. One of the churches that I served in had 14 bus routes, and the kids would come to church Sunday morning, and then the ushers would chase them through the building for the couple hours that they were there. Sometimes kids would escape, go into the local park, and people were frustrated, and no wonder. And to just call those people unspiritual because they didn't want to chase kids around the local park for 2 hours, that's just not fair. Anyway, I could go on there, and so could you, Carlton. You've seen as much as I've seen. But I think in today's world, at least in our part of the world, people look for something different in church, at least the people that I have contact with do. And they don't go, I want to find the biggest church that I can find and go to it. They want to connect to a fellowship with meaningful relationships and get to know people and become a part of that group. And so there's at least two things that I would mention in today's video, and you can interact with me on this. And this video will probably be a little longer than it needs to be. But number one is the role of the pastor. The sage on the stage. I am so tired of being deferred to as a pastor, as though I hold some knowledge that is only evident to people who've been to a Bible college. I just think that's crazy. Bible college was the least rigorous academic experience of my life. High school was harder for me than Bible college, to be really, really honest. And so to put myself forward as having some kind of expertise that sets me apart from the person in the pew, I just think that's awful. Much like maybe we would have criticized the Roman Catholic clergy for years ago, before people had a Bible of their own that they could read, or before masses were in the vernacular, the common language, and people, it seemed to me, would come to church and have this thing happen around them, but they had no understanding of what actually was going on. And so you have this elitist idea of what it means to be a pastor, which I think one of the things that needs to happen today is that clergy need to be willing to relinquish that elitist expertise that they think they have. And people need to be taught that it is the Spirit of God that leads people into all truth. And yes, pastors can be a part of that. And yes, teachers can be a part of that. But it's the Spirit that leads us. I am not a reliable guide. I do my best. I would never intentionally mislead people, but I do not have the ability to lead people into all truth. So this sage on the stage lecturer is something I think that we need to relinquish as pastors and get over it. And we need to learn that really maybe God has called us to be the guide on the side rather than the sage on the stage. So anyway, I'll leave that, and we can interact more. The other one is the priesthood of all believers. That means something, surely. In the past, what it has meant is we give people spiritual gifts, tests, to try to find out whether they would be good in the nursery or the kitchen committee or the youth group or the choir. All of those spiritual gifts tests seem to have centered on staffing the programmatic life of the church. And we've made life so busy for people that they don't have time to build transformative relationships with unchurched people or unbelievers, whatever you want to call those people who just are not a part of the world that we're a part of. The priesthood of all believers means that God can speak through any person as well as he can any others. It means that the gift that you have is no more special or no less special than any other. One body, many members. And I think that one of the whatever that plural is, that we need to emphasize is that we want to help people to live in the world in which they spend most of their time, and to live in that world in ways that they can help people take steps closer to Christ. Instead of drawing lines in the sand, establishing ourselves as adversaries, we become advocates. We become, the scripture says, ambassadors, as though Christ were making his appeal through us. Now, I could write this out, and I will, but for now, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'll post a link to this on that post that I made from the Great Emergence. I'll put it up on YouTube, and we'll see where it goes from there. God bless you, Carlton, and anyone else who happens to be interested, and have a wonderful, wonderful gathering tomorrow. May the conversation, and may it be a conversation rather than a lecture. May you enter into that conversation in ways that God makes you as much of a blessing as he may give you. And I pray that in Jesus' name.